It is a very unfortunate situation because that is why we must have this conversation. Why should we continue using this as a tool? And the effect of it is that every cycle of election, then it leads to really ethnic tension, because as we go to the election, it is not parties which are actually competing against each other, but tribes competing against each other for power. So that is the biggest challenge we have, and we must really find a way, just has been said earlier, that we must move away from this instrument or tool of using the tribe as a tool for political mobilization.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Well, I think we all belong to a family, a clan, a tribe, a community, a region, a country. So we all come from somewhere. Everybody belongs to a tribe in one form or the other. And in my opinion, I think the genesis of Mtuwetu, our person, was meant to be our representative. Because for far too long, tribes were domiciled in specific regions before the urban or rural to urban migration really became very prominent. But now times have changed. And we find ourselves in situations whereby you go to any part of this country, pick any random 50 people, there'll be proper representation of various tribes in that, any region you pick. So the Mtuwetu syndrome really does not seek to represent the people in that area. And again, the issues, as you say, are cutting across. It was believed that if you have one of your own representing you, they understand the issues you're having. But now with this cosmopolitan issue across the country, things have changed. So you cannot claim to be representing a region because you simply belong there, yet you don't fully understand the issues that have come as a result of urbanization. But still, the balkanization continues. You hear people saying, this is my region, this is my area, so I'm the person who should go and negotiate for you. But even when you have a prominent position like a CES position from a person from a specific tribe, it does not take away the grade 10 students of that, his home area, not finding schools. So there is no what you'd call appropriate representation. But we don't fight still until it is time for an election, until it's time for us to vote. Today, can we comfortably say that based on that history that we understand why it had to be one of us going to represent us? And now that things have changed, what kind of attitude should we employ in picking the representatives? Because basically, you're trying to employ somebody to be your governor or your MP or our president to go and do a job that we cannot all and collectively do. It has to be one of us. What should we be looking at? Is it the name they bear? Is it where they come from? Is it the language they speak? Or what should we be looking at? Aisha.
True. You see, you've put it right, because when you look at from the time some of us were born, there was that, from the patriarchal nature, then we came to society, then the community, and now we now have the devolution that came into place. By the devolution was to come and empower communities who were for years left out. And so even when you look at that, does it work? The question is no. Even that Mtuwetu syndrome, because in the counties more, it is the most predominant tribe. Look at the matrix they use when they're trying to get a governor. Let's use an example of a county like Busia. I'm just giving that as a random, or Kirinyaga or Embu. What happens is you look at the community that is predominantly there, and then you look at the second highest. So the deputy governor and the governor must come from those two tribes, regardless of whether these other people are there. The whole essence of devolution was to help the counties, and so that there's allocation of resources equally, and so that no part of the country is left out. However, what has been happening is that politicians use that as a tool. Kenyans have no problem. They have no problem being a Kamba, Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Kizi. They don't care. But what happens is that they whip emotions towards the end. And the politicians are very good at that. Over the years, some years back, you would see if one person is in a mega scandal of corruption, the whole community is mobilized. So what happens? It is a perception. So they go pay a few people and say, come to Milimani law courts and say, or come to the street and say, Mtuwetu alishikwa anaonewa, So the whole essence, the politicians use that to whip emotions. However, like my brother said, it is slowly fading. When you look at the Gen Z protest in 2024, it was very clear, tribeless. Because that's where now we're heading to. More from party to more of issues. Are we getting higher education loan? Are we getting the help? Is the medical sector working? Is security okay? How is our foreign relations? That to the young people is more important because they've grown up, like I said, most of them also from different tribes. Their father is tribe X, their mother is tribe Y. So this thing of tribe is an important conversation because as we go towards election, it will be used. But the question is, what can we do so that we have these honest conversations? Because my tribe does not necessarily put food on my table. Okay? They can help me if I have a problem today, but at the end of the day, I am a Kenyan. It doesn't mean because I come from tribe X, my taxes are lower than a person coming from tribe Y.
Right.
But the perception that has been created over the years is that there is a word. Let me give the last example on the presidency. You've seen what has been happening on appointments. So when that happens, the politician use it and say, the current president, for example, has appointed in the parastatals tribe X. Okay? So that's what happens. Muki, if you guys allow this person to continue, it will be one tribe or two tribes. Or the cabinet is composed of 15 or 16 from one tribe. What that does is show the other community, it's sparking emotions and showing there is a problem. So I look at it in a parting shot in two ways. That when you're given leadership, especially at the helm, as a governor, as a president, the distribution as per the constitution must be equal. So that you're not also being nepotism, practicing nepotism and giving one community. Because that's where it stems. So when I see that 17 parastatals or 20 parastatals come from one tribe, where does that leave the rest of the tribe? Where does that leave the other Kenyans? And for the Kenyans, it is high time we start now not looking at tribe, but look at competence.
And if you're looking at the competence, just to pick it up on that, why then would we have a problem if all the appointments are from one tribe, but they are competent enough and getting the job done? What would be wrong with that?
So just to probably piggyback on what you're saying, and I think when you look at ethnicity in the format it's used today, is a vestige of colonialism because it's an element of divide and rule. There's nothing wrong with you being, everybody has an identity, just like your name. Which is critical, that somebody has to belong somewhere. However, it should not be the basis for organizing. Much as the most primordial instinct to which you use to organize, what should be asked is this: what is important at the end of the day? And unfortunately, the political class understand that people have a belief, and because of the lack of resources, they've taken advantage of the people and they tell them it's us against them. And this brings competition that's unhealthy. There's much to be gained from the differences culturally that we have. We could turn it to positivity. For instance, the Maasais have brought us a lot of resources in terms of culture. We can have everybody else giving us that in terms of tourism. But why is it easy to organize? Resources are not adequately shared. And secondly, we've tried to cure that problem with devolution and also the Constitution in 2010, Articles 232 and 250, trying to be very clear in terms of having the face of Kenya in appointments. However, again, it's easy to go back to tribe because the resources are not enough. Do you think then we need to get over the period where we say we suffer for a short period, punish those who are not doing the right thing, and then we all benefit?
Dr. Mtesh.
Yeah, for me, to me, the way I see it is that we just need to restructure completely the way we do our politics. And for example, like the point you are bringing, what is wrong in having competent people, even they are all 15 and they are from one community? To me, it brings to me now the question of, as a country, we are made up of more than 42 communities. And then the issue of equitable or equity among the community, even if you have the best, but it is very important to ensure that everybody sees that there is equity in the way resources and even posts are actually distributed. Now, coming now to my point of restructuring our politics, just again the way you put it, and also just the way you have put it, ethnicity started a long time ago, even before we became independent, and it was started by the colonialists, and then unfortunately now, even now, our the post-colonial governments now continued with the same trend of divide and rule, and because of this, ethnicity has become so much entrenched in our society. And for me, as you may be aware, I launched my book on the 26th of February, and it was the title was "Managing Ethnicity in a Democracy."
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And to me, the point I was bringing is that as a country, we have advanced so well democratically, but we must be able as a country to find actually a solution to our highly ethnicist politics, because because of the way it really divides us and brings conflict now to our society. And as you know, democracy itself is okay, but now when you now try to relate ethnicity and democracy, then there's a serious paradox which comes, because democracy is about numbers. Democracy is about the winner taking everything. The democracy is also about inclusion and exclusion. So when you win, you take everything, and when you lose everything. So because as when we go to the elections, even though we are parties, but we compete for power as ethnic groups, it becomes a matter of life and death when we head to elections.
Is there anything wrong with desiring that the ethnic group from where you hail actually is included? We want to act as though you don't want your people to rule or to be dominant. But let's look at it critically, void of emotion. Is there anything wrong with wanting that?
Fundamentally.
To me, if we really want to create a country, or a country where everybody feels included, then we must just try to manage it. And why am I saying so? Is if we just now take, for example, our country, you know, we have four or five large communities. If they decide to hold powers amongst themselves and exclude all the rest, it will not be good for us to build actually a country. So it's very important for us to see how do we ensure that we try to ensure that everybody feels to be part and parcel of a country.
If you say that this is learned behavior, because a lot of the leftovers of colonialism then were practiced and entrenched by the so-called independent and then free. Because it was almost as though colonialism came about and lobotomized everybody. And then the thinking was now, it started from the very, very beginning all over again. But then there was hangovers from colonialism. So if you're saying that a lot of this behavior was learned, because prior to that, people lived in community, there was communal operations. People competed, but we saw that, leadership was, if not because of hierarchy in terms of royalty, that it was agreed upon by people. So was this learned behavior? And if it was learned, can it be stripped?
Just maybe to Asha, before you come in. There's nothing wrong with anybody desiring to lead. And there's nothing wrong with having numbers from a certain community. But what is the spirit that is guiding this? Like, we talk about the Constitution, where it says this, living the spirit of the Constitution. What is leadership about? Is it about benefiting me and my people, or benefiting the great community? And remember, we talk about Ubuntu. You are because I am. So why it is possible that because of the way we do politics, and we talk about democracy, majority have their way, minority have their say, but as long as you have the greater good, then it would be important probably to relook and think, there's nothing wrong. You have the capacity, you have numbers, but ensure that across the board there's equity. There'll be nothing wrong with it.
So if it was learned, can it be unlearned, Asha?
So just to answer, I think his question initially about if a certain number of members from a certain community are qualified. That question is interesting because it is important to note that the reason we passed the 2010 Constitution is to bring inclusivity. And unfortunately for the political class, and I say this because when you look at the political class, most of those appointments are not on credentials. It's not about, I know person X and is, let's say, an engineer, and so by virtue of that, with a good track record, I'm going to give you the ministry X. No, it is political and loyalty and more of numbers. So you can have a cabinet secretary who's clueless, but by virtue you come from the big community, I will keep putting you there just to dangle. What that does, it deprives of the citizens, okay, things that could have been done. Because you find someone who's clueless, even at the board level, does not understand what is happening, but is placed there. Yet a competent Kenyan, maybe from another community or even the same community, would have delivered in that same seat and would have helped the country. To come back to learning and unlearning, it is interesting because for me, the 2010 Constitution cured so many things. The only challenge we're facing is implementing. So if we are to carry along democracy, like DG has said that majority have their way, correct? But remember, minority have their say. So then how do we now put this together? And why is it that as a country, this thing of ethnicity only crops up towards election? So these are the pertinent questions. Why is it that after 2027, we will sit here, I'll not see my brothers tribex, we will laugh, we will work together, but just at the time that we're heading to elections is when all of a sudden we realize, the roads have not been built, our people didn't get jobs. So just to answer you, it is something that is conditioned to us. And they use it, like I said, the political class uses it to spark emotions. And to make you feel, you've been left out. All of a sudden, all the development is going to region X. You see, if you put me, I'll make sure I'll champion for the people.
Now, then I look at our neighbors. Tanzania has over 100 tribes. You would say, maybe arguably so, that they're the least tribal country. Wakona ujamaa, like they tend to have a different spirit of coexistence.
Your day.
At our history as a country, in Kenya, the colonialists just encouraged ethnic parties to be formed, not national parties.
Correct.
And the reason was that they didn't want to start national consciousness. And unfortunately, you see, the same has been carried up to this particular moment. Now, coming now to the question you are posing about South Africa, and those may be just a few, but I'll also want to link your question to the issue of leadership. You remember Tanzania had one of the strongest leaders Africa has ever had.
Nyerere.
Yes.
Nyerere. And he came from a very small community. So it was in his interest really to build a nation. And he really succeeded in building a nation. But there's a time also, by the time he was leaving, he was concerned that Tanzania was receding also to tribalism like Kenya. And from that, you can easily see that leadership plays a very critical role in terms of addressing the challenges of nation building. So to me, I'll say, leadership has a role, but in our situation, we just have to go back to the basics and ask ourselves questions, because South Africa, they have a different political system.
Indeed.
You vote for the party, not for an individual. You vote for the party, but not an individual. But here we vote for individuals. And then we must now try to focus what is that thing we must try to address? And to me, it is the political party. We must try to restructure our political party. And why am I saying so? I'm saying so, right now we have over 90 political parties. Honestly, even when we were in class 7 or class, because as we did CP, you are given 3 or 4 choices just to choose. But why should we give Kenyans 90 choices of parties? Why should we give them? So it shows that we really, the registrar of political parties must really look at what criteria or what should be there to regulate the registration of parties. Because when you look at these parties, how different are their policies? how different are their manifestos?
The party leaders are different. Are the difference?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you may just find that if you do a good job, you may just reduce them to 2 or 3. And if we actually do that, we may end up with 2 or 3 parties. When you really focus on restricting parties based on the policies they have, because honestly, you will not go beyond 5.
But looking at that, just if you look at the restriction, we would be trying to litigate morality, in my opinion. And people will raise issues of right and freedom of association and all that, which it is rightfully so. They deserve. We all deserve. We're in a free country. But shouldn't it be our mandate as a people, other than the party leaders, as a people, to decide that I'm not going to be party to her party or his party because the ideologies they propel are not nationalistic enough. And therefore, you don't need the ORPP to reduce the parties. We'll kill his party merely by not subscribing to him and coming to your party because you're the one who speaks to our language. Where is the role of the people? That's the question I'm asking.
Maybe as well, we've already tried to cure that problem. The Constitution 2010 is trying to cure that problem. Look at Article 10, where you're talking about
values,
national values. We're also talking about inclusivity. So if we leave the Constitution and the spirit of the law, I think it is possible. The only problem is the primordial instinct people have in galvanizing. People go for the low-hanging fruits.
But
can we
let me just respond to that because I think the one for political party is important. I don't agree with him in terms of muzzling the ORPP in terms of registration. Like I said earlier, there are only 3 key challenges. 1, we do not respect the 2010 Constitution. 2 is that over the years, whoever we've mandated to lead the country shows that by example. If today we had the head of state or the governors giving the appointments, on that inclusivity and guided by the Constitution of Kenya, we wouldn't be also where we are. Because what is happening is you're told, you see, Community X, since the president came over, these are the developments. This is what they are getting. So it makes people now to go and say, let us clamp, we also want. And then lastly is now the resource issue. Because you can have a resource issue, but if you have the correct leadership at the helm, and you have a head of state who's saying, I'm going to take my sister from Turkana because she's qualified, and have the face of Kenya at the helm, and development is distributed equally, and the members of parliament and senators and governors are doing their job, we wouldn't be where we are. But now, when you find a head of state or a governor appointing his kingsmen, everybody wants to say, even me, and I'll put it in Kiswahili, hata mimi nataka hiyo kiti ndo nieke watu wangu. That is what is happening. So as long as we don't get it right at the helm, and once someone takes oath of office, they know they're taking oath of office for the Republic of Kenya, not for my kingsmen. So once we put that right, and then we also put structures in place so that even the development agenda, it is not up to a head of state to wake up in the morning and decide I'm going to give goodies to Spice FM. To Spice FM, because Spice gave me votes. It doesn't happen like that. You are there by mandate as a head of state. Respect that office. It's not about the individual. It's the office you hold that should bring people together. It is a symbol of national unity. So if it is a symbol of national unity, it means you lead by example, so that even now, people will now not start regrouping and saying, all the roads built come from region X. All the employment come from region Y. So at sisi tujipange, we come back and say, these are the votes we have.
So isn't it, so it's clear here that Kenyans don't have an issue. Again, from somebody outside looking in, Kenyans do not have an issue with each other.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the other aspects of life, when somebody is sick, they're not asking, is my doctor Kamba, is my doctor, Giriama? Nobody's asking that. Nobody's asking, is my child's teacher Kikuyu or Luya? Nobody asks the person who is serving you in the bank, who is serving you vegetables in the shop, who you are doing business with. You don't ask where they're from. But when it comes to political appointments, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to these corporate appointments that are done in a lot of cases by the executive, then there's a problem. So isn't it clear then what needs to be fixed? It's not a national psyche that is off color. It's that there are proponents of this thing that have seen that it is actually divisive in nature when applied at certain pressure points. So are they the ones then that need to do the rerouting?
Yeah, like the question you have posed, when it comes to appointments, you'll find that those appointed are mostly from the political party
that won,
which actually won the elections. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that political party is actually owned by a particular community. So for example, if you just take a very good example of the 2013 elections, it was won by two parties, and they ended up appointing just in the cabinet and parastatals people from the two parties. And what happened to the others? Because they lost,
exclusion.
They were actually excluded. So the appointments were based on the party support, which now the president and the deputy president got. Now, to me now, that's where we need to fix the problem. Because if we shall continue this way, then the trend will continue and will not be able to address it. So we need to find a solution on how do we ensure that those who lost are not permanently excluded from power. So to me, it will mean us really restructuring our politics completely. And that's why I'm just going back now to the issue.
Asha said no.
Here's the paradox. As a politician, I would probably come and argue and say, I have gone to hunt. These are the people who believed in me getting the kill. And we have got it. Am I going to share the meat with the people who are not with me, or I'm sharing the meat with the people
just
who
because
you
want to be
just to answer that?
Asha has something about the meat.
For me, we need to separate issues. I think we are losing it because that meat that you went to hunt, let me use the example he gave of 2013 and going up to 2022. The president was not voted by one community. Okay? And the minute elections end, the 2010 constitution, which is actually like our Bible, kicks in. Respect the office. So when you respect the office, it means your office, first of all, by law, is a symbol of national unity. You're supposed to bring the country together. It's not about now, how do I help my community? And nobody is saying, when you become the president, you don't go back to your backyard to support your people. But we are saying equal distribution of resources. And that, as a president, you don't wake up in the morning and say, because my brother here comes from my community and I was with them in the campaign, I'm going to, give all the appointments there. So for me, we are losing sense. The minute you stop being a candidate and become a president, your portfolio changes. It means you roll up your sleeve and look at brand Kenya. Now, not my community. Yes, my community helped me. And that does not mean I will not put one person who's qualified in the cabinet. But I will also not go and say, because I come from tribe X and they gave me all the votes, I'm now going to take all the goodies to region X at the exclusion of others. That's why I repeat, we only have 3 issues here. Issue number 1 is that we have a problem with the leadership at the helm. If we have today a leadership that says, I now became a president, elections are done, we finished, it was a very good election, I am now the head of state, let's get back to work, and we are now going to work from equity and inclusivity. Then nobody will start saying, because if the roads distribution of everything is done equally, nobody will come and cry. Because now you see there's, the economy is thriving, we are all okay. Yeah, it is demonstrated. You can see the economy is working, everybody is happy. But when the head of state at the helm is the first person to practice nepotism, then we have a problem as a country. Because that's where now others use it to fuel the issue. Of now, you see why a tribe and numbers are important. That is number 1. Number 2, I said resources. Because most of the communities, again, come from the big communities are known. What about the small communities? Does it mean now they don't belong into Kenya? The way my brother said, so they're excluded? So the issue of resources is also timely. And the third one, this country would go the best direction if only we respected the 2010 constitution. There's nothing else. Because I find it very sad when I see that constitution is used to push the Mwananchi, but is not used to deal with the political class?
Now, I wonder sometimes whether we, the people, are actually who are the ones that are guilty of sustaining this oppressive post-colonial system. Because as you say, we were scattered so that we can be dominated. And this continues to play out in different formats and shapes and forms in Kenya and other African countries. So I beg to ask, what is the role of us as the people? Because I don't know, okay, you call them leaders, I don't. For me, they are employees. And then the one person I've employed is the president, followed by everybody else. And even the constitution does not have the word leaders or politicians. There is nothing like that. It's about servants and people who hold specific offices. So have we as a people realized the power that the 2010 constitution was supposed to give us? And are we practicing even half of it? Because we keep blaming the leaders. They do this, they form parties, but who subscribes? Who becomes the followers and who votes? It's not them. We, in millions, turn out, like we will, on 10th of August 2020, next year, to decide who is going to be our employee. I'm not looking for leaders. I'm looking for employees who will work for this country and transform it. So where is the role of the people? When you look at the development of the democracies, where now governments that are formed by the people are working to serve the people. What is the role of the people and where are we as a country?
Yeah, you see, when you talk about the role of the people, you have to look at our society. What sort of society are we living in? What are the poverty levels in our society? To me, that is very important. The poverty levels are very high. You just go to our rural areas.
Yes.
And you will just be shocked. Somebody just wants 50 or 100 shillings. He'll beg you for 100 or even 50 shillings, and he'll say, thank you for giving me that 100. So when these poverty levels are very high, then how do you expect this person to reason? Yeah, so there's a problem with the people when it comes now even to making decisions with regard to leadership. They may not have really the power and the influence to do much. And to me, we should leave the people. We should go back to what she said, leadership. Leadership. And then the other thing we must address is our constitution. Why is it weak? Why is it unable to address? What is it short of? Why is it unable to address these challenges?
Is the constitution unable to address these challenges, or are the agents of activation of this constitution unwilling to do the right thing?
And to probably just pick it up there, you have a person who, even when you listen to his contributions in Parliament regarding this constitution, he never believed in it. Yeah. And so you cannot have an agent who was against the current constitution implement the constitution. Yeah. However, what you ask is, there's an agency element to ask the people. Yes, I know a hungry stomach does not understand policy, it does not understand anything else. We've been kept in that perpetual cycle of poverty, that it's easy to manipulate people and bundle them along ethnicity. However, we also know, and we should ask, do people really understand the value of that vote that they hold? Because somewhat we have lionized or, made demigods of politicians in the sense that they fundraise for you for your wedding, they pay for your medical problems. So they pay for school fees. But these are things they shouldn't be doing, because if you operationalize what should work, then they become insignificant. They don't want to do that. The challenge is, despite knowing that we have less resources, can we find a way to understand the power of that vote that we hold to make a difference for us?
I'm sorry, Obed, to then help Asha answer that question, I don't think our problem is a lack of resources or insufficient resources. I think it goes back to the agents who then are tasked with the responsibility of activating these things. And we talk about the Constitution, that there's a role that individuals ought to play. There is a specific role that leadership as the vanguards of the Constitution must play. And that's why we see if resources were inadequate, we wouldn't see the grand theft that we see, because that means you have some to steal. if it was actually being applied to where it was supposed to be, we wouldn't have this running off with I don't know how many in terms of billions. So the constitution is not inadequate, but the practice of it is what has a problem.
So for me, I look at it this way. The whole essence, the leadership class has perpetually done this to just keep the masses poor. It is interesting sometimes when you sit and listen to a county assembly representative going to lie to mwananchi and say, nitawajengea hospitali, Very well, meaning you just wake up in the morning and full of lies. Number two, the issue of CDF. CDF, sio tafadhali, it's important to tell Kenyans, it is of your right. They are given this money to actually serve the community. So what these leaders do is actually not deliver. It is quite expensive for someone to run for office right now in Kenya. Mm-hmm. If today I woke up and decided I'm going to vie for parliament, member of parliament or a senator, and I don't have money, I'm told buy. Because what has been happening is the leadership has ensured that the Kenyans remain poor and at their mercy. So that you come, I'm giving you CDF. So that CDF, I'm using it to make sure it is your right by law. It is the taxes we pay.
You're paying taxes.
We pay those taxes, it is our money. But I'll make sure I give you so that you feel I'm actually giving you a favor. It is not as of right, but from favor. So I look at it two ways. We have a habit, and me as a Kenyan being one of them, of the culture of move on. And I one time said we cannot always be saying let's move on. We've allowed the leadership to do this nonsense. Because the grand corruption, the wastage of public resources is on another level. But the poverty levels are also on another level. So it is two-way. The mwananchi must now understand that I can eat 200 bob today, but that means another 5 years I'll suffer. Or the mwananchi can choose this time to say, a good example, we have the right to recall in the constitution. Why do we have to wait for 5 years if the member of parliament is not working? Mm-hmm. So it is two-way. The leaders are taking advantage by creating poverty levels to an extent someone feels, you know what, amenilipia mtoto shule, So I don't like him, but I'm actually giving him that vote because he gave me a bursary of 3,000 and not a lot of money, 3,000. Okay? Or a politician gives you 200. So for me, it is two-way. Us as wananchi must learn to accept that these things are as of right. We pay taxes, we wake up in the morning to work hard, so it is our money. So as we decide that it is our money, let us also now decide who we are putting there. Number one. Number two, let us embrace the spirit of the constitution. Leadership is like a marking scheme. If you come and sit as a member of parliament and you're not delivering, what stops the constituency from doing a recall? If we do recall 1 or 2 or 3 times, it will set the precedence that Kenyans are not here for a joke. If you don't deliver, you leave.
Doesn't it come to the question that
and then the last
earlier,
one,
then?
And then the last one is that the leadership itself must also look beyond. We are living in this country. It's not that you're going to run away. Okay? So just remember, what legacy are you leaving? That if you want to come and embezzle and make sure by the time you leave office, maybe after 2 terms or 3 terms in parliament, there is nothing to show. I think it is high time we start putting a chart and checking which MP has delivered and which one has not, so that we also exercise. So for me, I look at it both ways. The leadership has failed, but us as common citizens, we are allowing our politicians to use us the way they want. There's no other better language.
I guess it comes back to the question Obed asked earlier, Bona Uteshi, that do Kenyans understand what exactly you have in your hand beyond the vote, but the power that you hold to essentially say, excuse me, we voted for you and you're not delivering. Thank you very much, but you may leave. This is the thing. Do they do and what's it going to take to understand that you cannot come to Kenyans tomorrow and expect that you will wield over them some kind of tribal innuendo and expect them to accept it because you think you can. Watu ni wabaya, sisi ndio wizo. You can't. Do Kenyans realize that you actually have the power to overturn some of these things that have been entrenched for the last, 50 years?
Unfortunately, no. To me, most of them don't understand. And why am I saying so? Possibly only a few communities, those who have been in power, understand because they have been able to test power and they know how power is sweet. But those who have not tested power, unfortunately, majority of them don't really understand the power of the vote. And there is a very strong need for serious civic education actually to be done. And me, I don't see it being done. Civic education can assist, but I also still believe that it will not also help doing much in changing the way they think until also we still address the issue of poverty.
And I believe, DG Muteshi, that poverty is an instrument of oppression that has been created. Poverty is not some radical result that came about. It has been created and sustained. And the people who fought for the first liberation of our country, they were hungry too. They were in the forest, they were being fed. The people who fought for the second liberation, the courtesy now we have a new constitution, they were hungry too. They were battered. Some were even killed. And they knew it. They knew what they were walking into. So I'm of the opinion that the third liberation we are in is the economic liberation, which will end that poverty we are talking about. But it cannot come, like we were saying earlier, without sacrifice. We cannot, no one will come to feed us to fight them. Because remember, these people are the ones who sustain this oppression, this poverty. But, so what sacrifice? I mean, we have to make a sacrifice as a country. We have to agree that enough is enough. We continue to be dominated because we allow it to happen. If we say now, we are going in 2027, we have exactly, for those who go to church, you have 70 Sundays before you vote. Yes, I'm counting. For the Muslims, you have 50 Fridays to go and do the prayers. So we have to decide within this time. How do you want to be influenced? What do you want to go vote for? Is it your person, or is it issues that are going to transform your life as a country today? And that paradigm shift must manifest. What do you think?
But you see, Asha talks of a very important issue, the issue of CDF. And you see, not only CDF, also the education fund. Now, there was a time people were saying, why should we give politicians funds to go and give bursaries to students? Why don't we just put all these funds in a pot and stop giving it to politicians? Why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that?
Muteshi, we commit a percentage of our national money from the coffers to sustain political parties. And they're supposed to be institutions and should help in facilitating civic education, in my view. That's part of what the money should do. And we did that to create institutions that will be able to help Kenyans to understand what is required. Are they doing that? No, because political parties belong to people. They're not institutions. And there's a prime example to show once the leader of our political party is not there, then the party dies. Do we need to demand more from the political parties to deliver on their mandate, to ensure that the masses understand what's at stake and what values they stand for?
To me, the weakest link here is the political party. The weakest link to us actually is the political party. And that's why I say it is not about muzzling them, but if we really have checks and balances,
perhaps.
And then you just check, is there any difference between this party and the other party?
So I'll answer that one on political parties. First of all, it's important for the viewers and listeners to know, not all political parties get the political parties fund. It depends on the numbers. And the political parties that are getting the majority of the share are the ones who want to keep the status quo, number one. Number two, it is also important to note that for political parties, where we are, like my brother said, these things went in phases. You know, we fought for independence, so the democratic space was opened. The second liberation is now more on economy. The third one, we are coming back to societal, issues. But for me, the political parties, because of the issue of funding, the funding goes to specific political parties. Running a political party, even for you to comply at the registrar, is a whole different task, because you must have the 30 offices running. So it is not for the faint-hearted. So even getting that money to go out and do, that public awareness is also a whole different ballgame for those who want.
But then we have so many, 90 of
them. But now the biggest challenge is one. For me, where I see it, a political party, most people come Asha comes to political party, let's say PLP where I am, because I want to vie for member of parliament. Whether I get it or I don't, I disappear for 5 years. I'll come back next time, go to his party. What we lack is institutionalism of the parties, so that the party exists whether we win elections or not, and people just close their eyes, and once they close their eyes, they don't see the individual, they see the policy.
Right.
So if I close my eyes, I see PLP stands for rule of law, or party X stands for this and this. And perhaps my parting shot, because of time, is to tell the young people, and this is a claricon call as I wish all the Muslim viewers Eid Mubarak. We must move from being outside to sitting in political parties to give our voice. You cannot make that change when you're outside. The political parties, it's good he said 90 or so. The political parties are an important tool for you to actually put your voices to be heard, because all political parties in Kenya have the youth leagues, have the women league, have the PWD, the special interests, all political parties by virtue of the law.
Okay.
And the youth are in all those leagues. So if we must reform this country, that is the group that will help us to transform this country, because our parents are very comfortable. Wakipata 500 ya bursary, they say that person is good.
Is good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done, and of course, clearly for us to have certain levels of enlightenment. Thank you both of you for joining us in this conversation this morning. Asha Bashir is an advocate and the SG of PLP. Alexander Muteshi, former DG Immigration, is also an author of Ethnicity and democracy in this country. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Hopefully we moved the needle, even if it's a little bit. We did. Good morning. It's 2 minutes past 8.
The latest news from around the world. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.